Hello, beautifuls. On this March 21st, 2025, we are in the midst of the spring equinox. We are in the midst of a number of things. And I first want to start by welcoming the new folks to this channel. This is Mountain Woman Medicine's channel, and I'm Raine Ford of Mountain Woman Medicine and Nemeton. And we're looking at a glorious picture here on the screen of Nemeton in the background in the early wee hours of the morning. And I also want to welcome the current community that we have, the folks that tune in here every week when I share videos, and those who join and are part of the Alchemy the Season School, and those who come to the Nema Tribe events here at Nemeton, and that I meet out at events when I travel. I look forward to connecting with you all each time I come on here. And when I do come in here, I think about speaking to each of you. So it's less about me speaking to an open screen and more me being present with where I feel y'all might be. Hit or miss, right? I am one being and doing the best I can. So I want to just step into a wee moment of an energy feel for this week that we're in. And then I want to share a little bit about some of the energies as far as like in charts and information a little bit more. So this vibe check that we're in, this energy feeling. So the feeling that we're in right now is this like push of movement forward, right? New things might be beginning. Old things might be starting to shift and move out of form, move away from your world. You might be getting inklings of new ideas. You might be getting feels of how things might move next. And it might also be that on a certain level, things aren't quite coalescing. They aren't quite finalizing, right? That clarity hasn't quite set in. You know, maybe you've moved, but it's hard to settle in. Maybe you've changed jobs and you're still like sorting out where things are, right? We are in such a watery time right now, watery and fiery. And so there's a lot of steam being produced, right? We got a lot of a third element that's maybe not what we started out to aim towards, right? Maybe we wanted boiling water, and what happened was we left it on the stove for too long, and now all the water we wanted for our soup is in the air in the form of steam, and we're like, well, bonkers. You know, what am I going to do with this? And so that's kind of a feel of like, what can I do with this? I'm there, I'm moving places, and I'm not at the same time. So we're sitting in the middle of an eclipse portal, right? We had an eclipse a week ago or so, and then we've got another one coming up in this next week. We're all over the place. We're in Pisces, right? Not only is it a Pisces time of the year, but we also have a number of other planets and places that are in Pisces. We also have several retrogrades in motion. We've got Mercury going retrograde and Venus retrograde. So we've got our communication about our values that is having itself a redo or a rethink, a reevaluate, revalue, right? Retrograde is to repeat, it's to refresh, it's to revisit, right? And Venus is one of the more rare retrogrades that we have. We have one of those every couple of years, where Mercury retrogrades from our perspective about 3 times a year. And so right now we're in a dual place of that. And that is also retrograding over those points of Pisces and Aries and Pisces, right? So it's a lot of what are we wrapping up? What are we leaving behind that we no longer need? Where can we start things without needing to know the answers or without needing to know the end? Where and how can we move because an impetus inside of our being has said or invited us to do this thing? That is very different than the responses around reactions that might be volatile, that might be absolutist, that might be self-centric focused, right? So there's a slowing down that can be really, really helpful during these times, as this Aries energy wants to move really, really fast. It wants to make snap decisions. It wants to say, I know what's going on. I have all the answers. I have figured out the conclusions to things. And it might be wrong, right? Aries is to get things started. It's not about being right. And so as we filter and feel into what things need to be shared in a correctness that allows certain other things to flow out, right? If you don't give someone the correct details in order to meet you at 3 o'clock at the crossroads of X, Y, and Z, you're not going to be able to meet up. So there's some places where we need that precision of details, and other places where maybe we don't. Maybe life can be more rich. Maybe opportunities are more abundant when we have the capacity to be more deeply flexible. That's kind of what this time is asking for. It can feel a little impossible. It's like being asked to slow down and speed up. It's like being asked to take your blinders off and also only focus on one thing at a time, but be aware of everything around you. Right? So it's a very paradoxical time that we are heading into. Let's dive into a little bit of the. Well, actually, let me finish giving a couple more aspects. We are emotionally defined in the human design mechanical system until May, beginning of May, May 4th. We are emotionally defined. So those of you who are not defined in your solar plexus might find more lessons and more opportunities for wisdom during this time that is very much about those, peaks and valleys of that emotional flow. That is what represents that emotional energy. Emotional energy, it's all over the place, right? And you can look at the gates in the solar plexus. We have gates 36, 22, 37, 6, 49, 50, and 30 that compose the emotional solar plexus, which is where all those feelings and nervousness, a kind of nervous feeling that has us feeling a little on edge, right? And if we can learn, for those of us who are not defined in a solar plexus way, while we're experiencing this defined energy, being able to lean into remembering every single morning when you wake up that you are experiencing a world and an energy that is not your own. And so thus we can honor it from a place of this to this, kind of, right? And so it's allowing it to roll through without letting it get stuck. All right. Don't be a screen, not a sponge. Don't soak it up and keep it, because that's going to congest an undefined solar plexus system. Now let's look at the other side of it. Those with the defined solar plexus, you may find more of that energy than you're normally used to. And you might find it in different ways. So right now, until May, we have gate 3536, channel 3536 that is defined. And that's being defined by Neptune and by the nodes, North Node, I believe. And so in that process of feeling into where and how do I get to claim my sovereignty in the midst of feeling all of this energy that might either be enhancing my own, or it might be giving me something that is not normally my own. And what do we do with that? All right. Quick reminder, next topic, we have Pluto, who's still sitting in the 3rd degree of Aquarius, right? He's just starting his new venture, and he's going to be there for quite some time. And we still have this energy, that Aquarian energy, both Pluto's 3 degrees of Aquarius, and Neptune is wrapping up in the 29th degree of Pisces. So we've got the anaretic degree of Pisces, and basically of the whole astrology chart, with Neptune, where our dreams are involved, and then Pluto, the excavator of our underworld and of the hidden places where our power has been lost. And Neptune gives us peaks through dreams and through sensorial understandings where we might be able to locate that within ourselves. And last piece, Saturn, just recently, a few days ago, on the 17th, moved from gate 22 into gate 36. And so still Saturn's still sitting in emotional energy. It's still sitting in Pisces, Saturn and Pisces, right? It's a very uncomfortable energy for Saturn, the bringer, the reminder of limitations, the bringer of the discerning, the disciplinarian, the have you met up with your agreements? Have you followed through? That sternness that can be inside of our existence, or that archetype that is present around us, has moved from this energy of more of a gracious respect, challenging, like dealing with layers of respect issues. Where has there been disrespect and dishonor? And now it's moving into gate 36, which has this energy of the dark night of the soul. It has this energy of crisis. It has this energy of bringing us, or of experiencing difficulties that help us to shape a deeper understanding of our compassion for and with humanity and ourselves. So wonderful. That's the overview. And now let's dive in just for a quick moment. Kind of want to show you around a little bit. I feel like I've shared things in the past on my screen and not necessarily given a bit of an overview of stuff. So I'm going to be trying to do that this morning. Okay, so we're going to do this one, and then I'm trying a new thing where it's this. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to do share, and then we're going to do, okay. Let's see where I can go. This goes over here. Okay. So on the screen here, we're looking at today's chart. I just pulled this morning, a little while ago, and here's the current human design chart, right? There's that gate 36, 35 that I was talking about, and it's defined here with the North Node and Saturn. And we scroll down. So now as we go to look at this placement here onto the astrology chart, we get to kind of see a similar kind of thing, right? So 35, 36 can be shown North Node. Node's right here. Let me just scroll down here. North Node, because there's no information on here other than the symbols, where this down here has the symbol layout. North Node is 16 degrees of Pisces, and Saturn, 13 degrees of Pisces. So we can come up here and we can see in Pisces that both of them are up in this space here, right? There's Saturn, there's the North Node. And we can also take that right over here to the multi-map, which is something I've designed that is about looking at, just tuck this one out of the way for the moment. It's not scooching. Okay, so coming over here to Aries Pisces, we can see that we are, there's gate 36 right there, right? 22, 36, and 25. So 25 is the gate that starts the new astrological wheel. I am wondering if, I don't see, the screen of share is coming up. Maybe it isn't, I just can't see it. Okay, well. Yeah, I don't see it up in my screen. All right, well, pardon the technical difficulties here while I reattempt this. Here and here. Okay, well, now I see it up. So I think I'll just do it this way and share. Wonderful. Okay, so I don't see it, but I don't need to. I'm just going to trust that it's there. There, it's showing up. Wonderful. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so This is the multi-map down here. This multi-map allows me to take a look at where placements are happening. Let me pull up my annotation chart here for a second. There's this button and that one. Give us some red here. Okay, so Pisces, Aries. This is kind of where we are right now inside of this energy that we're talking about. There's so much at stake in what is happening inside of this. Let's see, most of the energy that we're playing with right now is coalescing right here in this space here. Gate 22, 36, 25, and 17. So this tells me, a lot of this energy we already know is we're in the springtime, right? We got February, March, and April. We're sitting here at this Ostara time period, if you're looking at it from the more of the neo-pagan side of things. Not even so much neo-pagan, just the pagan side. That's a name for this time period. In the permacultural gardening mountain sense, this is also the second spring celebration. The first one was back in February. And back in February was when we were, taking stock of seeds and putting in the orders that we needed and assessing what things were available out in the greenhouse for planting new seed starts with. And now sitting here in this March timeframe, we're starting to start those seeds and we're filling up the pots and packing them down and planting seeds and labeling things and planning out where are the seeds and the seedlings going to go in the garden, how are things going to be arranged in such a way where they are in their best acclimation for sunlight, however many hours of sun they would like to have, because we have like 16 hours of sunlight here. And for a lot of plants, that actually really scorches them, and other plants really love it. So learning what each of these kinds of plants wants and needs in order to grow vibrantly has a deep parallel to how we do that internally and how we get to do that interrelationally, right? So all those things like our own wellness, our own health, our own inner understanding, our interdependency and interrelationalness with each other, and then how we observe the world around us and or work with things like growing our own food, growing our own medicines, working in relationship with the land around us. All those three things are intrinsically tied together. They are dependent upon each other, and they are also independent of each other. And here we get to see a very similar layout in the cosmology as we look at how astrological signs and planets have their relational aspects, how that corresponds with seasons, how that corresponds with gate keys and with godheads, these figureheads. So that's this ring here that's right around the outside, right after the numbers, the gate keys. And so each of these 16 godheads represents a facet from various cultures inside of the world, and it represents key points in the year around where that energy is shifting and changing, right? We've been in Mitra being an abundance and of wealth, right? It's tapping into where our abundance is coming from. Godheads also have an aspect of not self to them. So while you do hear me talking about them in like, oh, here's their illustrious positioning, do understand that there's also a deep not self indicator. Like, where do we get so in Mitra? Where can we get so wrapped up in money and what we need that we don't pay attention to other things, or that we assume that it's always going to show up, and so therefore we don't take responsibility and we expect other people to take care of us, right? So there's a lot of nuance to each one of these pieces. We're now moving into Michael, Archangel Michael, and so now we're looking at this archangel aspect of things, which can also have a fierceness and a ferocity to it that is like, hey, are you overriding people's realities with your perspectives and your opinions? Are you a protector of those who have more vulnerability and less capacity to tend and take care of themselves? Where are we inside of that kind of energy? So, and then around the outsides here, you'll also see the elementals. So these are the elements that correspond with emotions. And in that capacity, I don't have them actually highlighted here. Each of the colors of these different astrological signs have an element associated with them, right? Pisces is associated with water, Aries is associated with fire, Taurus is earth, Gemini is air. And so like that, you see them written under here. And so that's I had them colored at one point in time, and it just led to a lot of visual confusion inside of the chart. So I have taken them out in that capacity, and you can still see where we are. So we are sitting in between that water and earth aspect, and it's opposite, right? Fire. Let me clear this here. East and fire, pride, entitlement, and compassion, right? So we are not facing our own internal shadows, and we're not in touch with our own growth lessons, we can have an entitlement to us, a pride to us, an arrogance to us that makes us only assert and see our own reality rather than also honoring and valuing others. And so that's a thing I will say we need to become aware of these things, because when we are not aware of these things, we can create a great deal of harm where we go. And harm isn't what we're trying to create here, right? Fire wants to create compassion. It wants to create a kind of equality. I would say unconditional love. And at the same time, there's this new thing going around where unconditional love has this like inner connotation that you are going to lay down and take everything I give you, or you are going to give me everything that I need. And that's not what unconditional love means. That's why I've taken unconditional love out of this capacity and I put in compassion. It's a little bit like the concept of being kind, but not having to be nice. Niceness is closer to people pleasing and closer to, I won't tell the whole truth, or I won't give all this information because I don't want to risk hurting your feelings. The fact of the matter is, when we do that, we cut off the ability for us to be deeply honest, to be deeply transparent, and even perhaps to be deeply vulnerable. So I would encourage us to pay less attention to being nice and pay attention to being kind and honest. And then as you've got honesty, you move to vulnerability, to transparency, then vulnerability. Vulnerability comes with it an emotion, a felt emotion. I would say transparency is a little bit like letting someone peek in and see, but you're not actually investing in it, right? So there's these different layers, because not everybody deserves, here we go, deserves, right? We're talking about entitlement. And I'm going to go there for a second. Not everybody deserves everything that is you. Not everybody or everything deserves your vulnerability. If you fall apart in the middle of the grocery store and you give the whole of the grocery store your vulnerability, it's going to have a different interaction. It's going to have a different effect than if you're doing that in front of a group of friends, or if you're doing that in a space where that is what is called. And that doesn't mean that you don't fall apart in the grocery store either. It's simply that there are places and ways where we can do things in different ways. For some of us, that is what is up. And for others of us, we are choosing the places where we are bringing that into being. All right, I'm going to clear my screen here of these drawings. We're going to come away from this one, and I want to share with you, dive into just a little bit. I'm not going to make this be too long of a video because there's a lot going on this week, and I have some medicines to make and some garden things to get to. So let's just go over this real quick. The sun and earth. From the last video that I did, there's a couple of changes, and those are really the ones that I'm going to focus on today. The sun and earth. Okay, first off, quick, big picture perspective. Let's see if I can do this without disappearing. I'm going to give you a view of kind of larger perspective of what this chart is. This chart is something that I have designed. I have called this the InnerCartography Matrix. And it is, oh, why is that hidden up under there? Interesting. Huh. No, I wanted to hide that one. I'm not playing with the house's capacity of things at the moment. Calling them. All right, well. There we go. Okay. So this InnerCartography transit, if you look up at the top, you know what? I'm going to use my Just the way it is. Okay, so we've got elements in astrology right here where my cursor is. And that follows all the way down. And we track what is the element. So sometimes you'll see two, and it's because we're sitting on a cusp. The astrological sign, and you also have the degrees there. So you can see a translation between this and then over to an astrology chart. And then what aspect that it falls under. I don't have the emotional aspects in here at the moment. They're in a different chart. They will be brought over soon. And they do correspond with these elements that run down the side. And so then we've got the human design mechanics that are all in gray here, different gray scales, from the centers to the keynotes to channels to energy, types of energy as it moves. Is it projected energy? Is it generated energy? Is it manifestor energy? The circuitry that it belongs to, the quarter cross, the godheads, the not self traps, and some unique notes. There's a column here on the I Ching itself. And then what are the channels, the hanging gates, the other end of the gate, the harmonic gate, and what is the programming partner of each of these gate keys? So in human design, we have channel ends, right? And then in gene keys, using the same 64 I Ching, we have programming partners. Programming partners are what is opposite on the wheel. And when I'm speaking about the wheel, I'll pop over here and show you the multi-map, this multi-map that goes along with this InnerCartography matrix. That's this one right here, right? So this multi-map gives us that aspect to be able to look at where hanging gates, programming partners. Oh, here we go. Need to zoom in here for a quick moment so I can show you. Let's see. We are in gate 25 today, which is right here on the cusp between Aries and Pisces, right? So gate 25, when you look all the way across, opposite end, you see gate 46. Now we go up here and we take a peek at this human design chart, and I'll show you, whoops, there we go, right there. So here they're telling us that the sun is in gate 24, line 4, 25, line 4, and Earth is in 46, line 4. Right, so that there we're having a mechanical example of how programming partners are in opposition. And harmonic gates can be anywhere from like right next to it or just a couple off to kind of in this aspect of things. And so that has its own particular formulation and connection points. And so it's good to know that for each number that we talk about, each gate key, we're actually potentially talking about up to 3, because they have their programming partner and they have their harmonic aspect. And so we get a deeper view of a broader base of connections. There's a lot of really fun things you can look at and see when you look at this information on that level. And I'm not going to go that deep into it in this moment. I'm going to go back to this overview here real quick. Another section here, all of what this blue row up top covers, and then down is part of the gene key spectrums. And so there we have the key itself and what its archetype is, its programming partner. Then we have its shadow and the dilemma of the shadow, the victim state of the shadow, the repressive state of the shadow, the reactive state of the shadow, and then the shadow's affirmation. Like, what does the shadow claim, right? It's an intense energy, right? Gate 25, for example, gate 25's shadow affirmation is, I am not able to look at my own pain. I hurt too much to address my own pain. And thus I stay dissociated from life. And thus I stay disconnected. And thus I fill in the blank. So it gives you kind of like a startling look at, oh, what's that shadow claiming for itself? And do I want that? And so it keeps going. You've got your gift potential and your gift affirmation. Then you've got your essences expression, your siddhi expression, and then you've got its affirmation. So each of the affirmations give you something to feel into inside of your cellular world of what you want more of, potentially what you want might less of, and the things you might open yourself up more to. We also have aspects of the codon ring. And this codon ring physiology and amino acid actually technically is a bridging between human design and gene keys. And so I will be shifting this matrix to reflect that. That's its own journey and a really lovely way of applying nutrition and exercise and practices to your inner mapping, to your inner cartography. Inner cartography means inner mapping. Cartography means mapping or map making. And inner refers to the inner world, the inner plane, your inner self, how you are when you are in quiet and solitude, the things that go on inside of your world behind your reactions. Some may know exquisitely what I am talking about. Others might be like, what are you talking about? I am what comes out of my mouth. We are so much more than that. We are so much more, perhaps even than what we have even thought to look at. And those of us who've been doing it for years, there's still so much more beyond what we don't know. And it can be so difficult because we don't know what we don't know until we know it. And what we don't know is so much bigger than what we think we know, that we oftentimes think we know it all. And both of those things can be quite a trap. And it's a good time now to be sitting and looking at all of that and taking that more deeply into account. And then lastly, here at the end of this matrix, we have the nature connections. And that is also has a part to do with gene keys. I also kind of leave it on its own because, well, gene keys associated with Richard Rudd. Because those things, while they also have their own journey, and there's a book called The Dream Rave that you can also play with, there's also deep connections, associations with simply the magical components of all of these things. So you've got minerals, you've got birds and animals, and then insect fish that are kind of grouped together. So you get many of these different iconic pieces where you might work with certain stones, or you might work with you might pay attention to what kinds of animals and birds cross your path. And by doing so, be given a sense of a flavor of something when you are looking at your own chart and working with those animals inside of it for yourself. All right, let's come out of this macro look and dive in a little bit more into this microscopic world. So the sun. The sun is currently sitting in gate 25, line 4. Of course, it's a line 4. That's why I pop on here. Line 4 has to do with community. It has to do with friendships and being friendly. It has to do with connecting and reaching outside of and building that foundational level on a community and interrelational level. And so this is also this gate 25. Here, I'll show you the elemental side of it. We're looking at Pisces from the 28th degree of Pisces to the 3rd degree of Aries. And so this covers from the anaretic degree of Pisces all the way through into the first start for the new year. And so it's kind of like the beginning and the end all at the same time. So let's play with what that looks like a little bit. It's water and fire. So it makes steam where it goes. It's cardinal and it's mutable, right? So it's this movement between iconic and fluid. We're looking at this energy that is pioneering a new way, both in its completion and in its newness. It's the lover of spirit, being love. This is not about being in love. This is about being love. Being with yourself in your own perfect way, right? Here, Ra called it the innocent disposition that manifests itself perfectly in its naturalness. Love of spirit. So to begin and to end with love is a really powerful, powerful dynamic. And so individual, projected, initiation, beginning in the mind, Michael, the archangel, the angelic mind, and then the potentiality of feeling deep melancholy over feeling a lack of love. So love. Love is an interesting topic. Throughout the years and the decades and the ages, it has been described and claimed to be many things. love, I think, is a definition that we each come to in our own world. I think that love also has to do with loving yourself and loving others, loving things greater than yourself, loving being a place where you look at both its value for itself and its value for how it relates to you. When you look at both of those simultaneously, you've got something that can be, well, it's a dual scoop, right? You can take a scoop this way and you can take a scoop this way, right? Years ago, I used to talk about this concept of fish love and how that's not love. And these days, I've sort of settled into a little bit more of a gentle and a looseness, because fish love. Okay, so it is said that you love a fish. You love fish, right? You love watching them swim around. You love eating them. So you're going to kill the fish and you're going to cook it and you're going to eat it. And you say you love fish. You don't love fish. You love how fish tastes to you. You love what it's doing for you. You love the beauty that it's giving to your eyes and to your brain. You love the taste as it's entering your mouth. You value the energy that you get when it lands into your stomach and becomes a part of your body by being digested and going through your bloodstream and into your organs. That's not a bad love, because that's a love of self, right? If we didn't eat the fish, if we didn't eat the vegetables, if we didn't eat the food, we wouldn't be able to be alive to love. So there's a balance of deep need to love here as well. And let's understand that that is not love of another person or of another thing. Because if you're saying, I love this fish, but now I'm going to go kill it and consume it for myself, you're giving it a one-sided love. Another side of love is that you love a thing for what it is. You view a beautiful flower out in the garden and you don't pick it because you want it to go to seed. You want it to exist. You'll come to it and walk by it in order to see it. You might appreciate a person, and over the course of time of appreciating this person, you come to love this person. And now you take their needs and their considerations into a same or similar level of consideration that you might do with yourself. And so that's a kind of love where you are now taking your love and you're encompassing another person with it. You also wouldn't have it to encompass if you didn't have it for yourself. Right? So love, I feel like, has been something that's been, it's very squiffy in the world and throughout the ages. We've had many different definitions of it. The Bible has an interesting definition of it. I find it quite lovely. There's many definitions across many different traditions and many regions. I tend to consider it as simply as care for myself and care for another. And it's not about being nice, it's about being kind. So I kind of keep it simply in those ways. And then when I apply it and I do it and I look at it in relation to what we're talking about here, where it's about being love. Being love. What is it to be the love, as opposed to be talking about what love is, as opposed to expecting it to come your way or wanting something from it. This is about an inner journey of what is it to be it, to receive it, to give it, to breathe it, to communicate it, to think it, to walk it. What is it to walk a middle path with love? What is it to walk in a balance between what we give and what we ask for, what we communicate and what we recognize as our own truths to hold close for ourselves? It's a deep balance, right? So this is what the sun, the 70% neutrino stream, is giving us as an invitation to ponder in these times. Here on Earth, the energy is sitting in gate 46, right? So 25 opposite ends, gates, channels, 25, 46, the other end of the channel, 46, is where we are. And here, this is all about the energy of delight. This is about stepping into our dedication. This is love of the body. This is being embodied. This is also an energy of what it is to push upward. It is that dancing energy that wants to receive the love of spirit, that wants to receive being in love, being love, right? So we are sitting in this deep energy of love and what it is to connect on a practical level, what both the releasing of it and the embracing of it looks like. And it's a deep part of why we are inside of this energy that may feel very hard. Watery and fiery and steamy energy is very dissociative. It's disassociating from its previous form. So if boiling water transitions to steam, that is a disassociation from a physical watery level into another modality, another way of being, right? One is air, one's born on the air, and one is born in a pot or a bowl, right? Water needs a vessel to hold it, where steam sits in the air, right? It can create fog, it can create clouds, right? So this bowl of water may have deep clarity. You add a bunch of heat to it, and now all of a sudden it's in the air and it's steamy and it's foggy and you can't see. So we can go from clarity to foggy real quick. And that's a deep part of this time that we're in. Breathing and recognizing that if we are feeling like that, we are right on time. We are not alone. We are right in it, right where we're supposed to be, right where we are meant to be. Last piece I want to take a touch on is Saturn here. So Saturn just moved into gate 36 not too long ago. We've got a couple other 36s. We got a 36 in the North Node going on. Oh, it looks like the other 36 has moved on. So just North Node and Saturn. But still, North Node and Saturn, both of them in gate 36. So our direction is moving towards compassion. So is our limitations. We are finding potentially the limits of our compassion. We are finding potentially the limits of our ability to deal with crisis. Turn on the news these days, it's a little intimidating out there. There's not even just the news, between news and social media and people sharing person to person. It's like finding bits and pieces of truth scattered inside of all of those things. Like, right, it's hard to find the truth in one place these days. And when you do go in to find it, it's chaotic. It's everywhere we look, there's crisis. And yet perhaps where you are sitting, where I'm sitting right now, it's peaceful. And so it feels surreal. It doesn't feel here. And it's here in different forms and ways than we might think, than we might understand as of yet. So courage and love to our hearts as we move through this time of crisis. This is also an emotional impulse of desire, right? We want to be able to do something. We want to be able to feel something. We long for new experiences. And this is a willingness to be affected by crisis as they are perceived as an opportunity for development, right? So being willing to enter a rough time because we know that it could bring about a change. And being able to be with that through the evolutionary process, right? This is the mechanical aspect, is this crisis and being in preparation of that. And when we step over here into the gene key spectrums, this gate 36, we recognize that the shadow is turbulence, the dark night of the soul. Here it says dark ride of the soul. That's funny. It's supposed to read dark night of the soul. Dark ride. Yep, nope, that sounds accurate as well. The dilemma is overwhelmed, right? We are overwhelmed by our dark ride of the soul, right? This is desire may have gotten us into this, and we're going to need more than the delight of being inside of an adventure to get us through. Because ultimately, we're a victim of our own vulnerability. Vulnerability being really hard to do, hard to be, right? So if it's hard to be vulnerable, we might then find it hard to be transparent. We might then find it hard to be honest. right? So track these things in your own world. Are there any places where that gate 36, like, do you have the gate 36? And if you don't, how is it impacting your world now? Do you have a lot of nervousness in your world? Is there a crisis prone state that's happening for you in your world? Are you living through the turmoil of your emotions? Where can you take a deep breath, shake it out, and remember all humanity. We are all human. We are all going through these various states at various points in time in our life. The best thing that we can have is compassion for ourselves and for others, where our heart is open for everyone. And boy, can this feel really hard in these times. It just makes so much sense for some of us to close our hearts, lock the doors, slam shut the shutters, and disappear inside until someone comes and drags us out. That's not what this energy is about. This energy is about opening up our hearts for people. This might look like opening up our homes. This might look like opening up our kitchen cabinets. It might look like sharing a plate of food with someone. Recognizing that compassion and suffering is a state in the world that we can choose or not choose, right? We don't get to choose. So here's this. We don't choose our suffering. We can choose our struggling. Yeah. We can choose how we struggle about our suffering. We cannot choose what we experience or what gets handed to us in life. We might break our leg. We might lose our spouse. One of our parents might die. We might fall ill. So we cannot control what life hands us. We can control how we respond to it. And that's a kind of what this energy is all about, is how are we going to respond to that which is currently alive in the moment in front of us? How are we able to recognize that there is a divine plan in place, the codon ring of divinity? And so there's something that's happening that is beyond what we can understand. Solar plexus energy. It's sulfur. That's funny. Where did it go? Whoops. Come back. There we go. Sulfur, nut thatcher, squirrel, and salamander. Squirrel! That's funny. We holler squirrel. Gosh, can we get wrapped up in our running from life, running from the complexity, running from the felt crisis, emotional energy that we do not understand, or that we did not ask for, or that we did not want. Squirrel, right? We run around and we are nervous and crisis prone. Unless we choose not to be, unless we choose to see it from a different way. This is why I say that mechanical energy, human design, mechanical energy is about a black and white spectrum based thing, right? It's this or it's that. It's defined or it's not defined. It's a not self thing, or it's your wisdom that's stepping through. Well, when we look at the gene key side of things and we look at the soul trajectory, we look at choice stepping in, we look at understanding these shadows and having compassion for them without judgment. And then we look at the choice where we can shift that frequency into a gift state and be in a different state while understanding the energy that we might be being blessed with, which is kind of the opposite end of the shadow state, right? The shadow, the gift, and the essence all have a flavor of each other. And I see them as a circle. Imagine for a moment that this Siddhic energy, this essence of compassion, let's say, came down to earth and came into corporeal form. And it has known deep compassion, where it recognizes that what it feels and what it experiences is what everybody else goes through, and everyone else goes through, it goes through, and we are one, right? It's coming from the aspect and the understanding where gate 36's essence affirmation is my suffering encompasses all of humanity. We can have deep compassion for ourselves when we recognize that we are all hurting. Even the ones who are doing the hurting are hurting. And Siddhic energy is not something that's living in corporeal form. It presents itself on occasion through our physical form. So imagine that energy comes to Earth, right? Much like ourselves, we come to Earth, we get born. But it gets here and it goes, oh, the rules aren't the same. I don't get to act and function as though we are all one. That's called mansplaining or overwriting someone's reality or being too penetrative or being, right? So that there's all sorts of things that are like, no, 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 no. You need to honor the individuality of the people. And so now there's this like lost aspect. And so we come into an understanding of how this shadow is called the dark night of the soul or of turbulence, right? It's like being tossed into a place that you don't have any understanding of or any footing inside of, because the rules where you came from do not apply over here. So then what do you get to do? And so then it becomes this work, right? This work, this contemplation, this movement, this recognition of, wow, this turbulence I feel in my body. Oh, it's not all me. And I get to deal with it. Because it's going to keep coming up and keep coming up and keep coming up unless I recognize something and do something differently with it. In doing something differently with it, we can recognize that we are a piece and part of the whole, and that everybody is suffering around us, and that it's about humanity, and we are part of that humanity. And so we get to come to this understanding of how the shadow is not dishonorable, the essence is not the goal, and the gift's a sweet spot. The gift is our place where if we aim for, if when as we can aim for, we are, it's like steering a ship, right? Never goes in a straight line. The ocean doesn't work in a straight line ever. And so we're always little mini course corrections as we go. And that being a big part of where and how it is that we are working in this time and age. And while we are sitting here inside of this spring equinox energy, where we're sitting at equal day and equal night, where we're exploring and seeing what plans might want to be put into place, what seeds want to be planted, and maybe seeds are actually getting planted. It could be done through conversation. It could be literally poking seeds into the ground or into little pots. So I invite you over the course of this next week. We have the equinox, the second eclipse happening on the 29th. Today is the 21st, so 8 days from today, next Saturday, Friday, I don't have the date sitting in front of me. March 29th is our next ecliptic point, and that is going to be a solar eclipse. And so that's going to be a kind of a culminating of energies all into one, the 29th, yep, is Saturday. So next Saturday. And Saturday and the 30th, so the 30th, there's a few pieces of energy around that time that will be changing over. And so it's going to be bringing this energy to kind of this will be one point of the portal and then a second part of the portal. And I'll be doing another video on this second part of the portal. There was a video last week that I did that was on the first part. And what we're sitting in right now is this like, there's two portals going on and we're sitting right in the middle of it. And so this portal aspect might be shifting energy in and out of our world. Deep invitation to see what it is that is wanting to stay, that wants to come in, that's new, that's ready to walk out the door, and let it. Let the things that want to move. And deep self-care. Deep self-care, right? This might look like crying and laughing with yourself. This might look like some alone time to yourself where you just sit there and just be. Don't watch Netflix. Don't turn your phone on. Don't touch a piece of technology. Read a book if you must, or listen to some music. and just allow your body and your being to kind of float. There will come a time when the structure returns and things are a lot easier to pin in place and to sort out and to figure out and to give order and reason to. And that might not be right now. For some of us, that might be. And where you can, do. Where you get an inspiration to do 5 or 10 minutes of a thing, go do that thing. And then when you don't shame yourself. Don't tell yourself that you should. Shoulding in this place is probably not the most helpful thing. So with this, I'm going to wrap it up for this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Until soon.